Morning, YouTubers. Just got done fluid filming my truck outside, and if you guys don't know what fluid film is, feel lucky. It's like a rust preventative stuff because the salt just eats everything up here in Wisconsin. So anyways, I fluid filmed my whole truck, and I think I got more of it on me than my truck, and now I smell like, I don't know, like a barnyard animal, like a sheep or something. Nasty, just filthy. But it's not going to stop me from shooting a little quick video for you guys. By the way, today's unofficial sponsor is Speedway Coffee. Their coffee, it's, I don't know, it's like bitter cardboard. Not really that good. Anyways, we are going to weld with stick today, which I want to do like actual hands-on stick welding videos for more common rods, but I thought what better way to break the ice than to use rods that you guys probably have never really seen or heard of. Now you've heard of 6013, but what about 1/16th? Chicago Electric, Harbor Freight. Not only that, I got 6011s in 1/16th. Now these really only exist for welding sheet metal. And I got a funny story about that I'll tell you quick and then we'll get into it. So these rods here I bought, I can't even remember how many years ago, a long time ago, because a guy, friend of a friend of a friend, wanted me to weld in some shock mounts or something for a Ford Escape that had rotted out, okay? And this thing, basically, I didn't have a flux core wire welder, I didn't have a MIG welder. All I had was a stick welder and a TIG machine. Well, you can't really TIG rusty auto body, especially zinc treated galvanized is terrible. So my only option was to stick weld it. And I ended up using these 1/16th rods to stick weld in a shock tower on a Ford Escape. It's like a wheel well, part of the wheel well. Needless to say, that was probably the most frustrating welding job I've ever done in my life. I don't recommend it. It's terrible. If you don't believe me, go out and do one. But sheet metal like auto body, this really, I don't know, not really for that. But you can definitely weld 1/16th thick steel and 1/8 inch with these guys. So we'll just set up and we'll get into it. So the setup I got here, I got a bunch of scrap steel laying around. That's what we're going to weld on. Now, these guys are 6013s, and I don't expect you to know this because I haven't covered it yet, but maybe you do anyways. 6013 can be run on pretty much any polarity. So you can run it DCEN, you can run it DCEP, you can run it on AC. I'm going to be running it on DCEP. Amperage-wise, it says 20 to 45 amps for these things. Now, I don't really remember how they run because it's been a long time since I've ran these. So weird holding on to these guys. So I'm going to start off at, I guess, 35 amps. And we're going to make a pass and then take a look at it. These things could be a lifesaver for you if you need to weld some real thin sheet metal or something and you just don't have any other option. But I'm telling you, man, if you're doing auto body with these, get ready to be pissed off, I guess. Wow, that's like one step above a sparkler. Seems to be on the colder side there. Let me get my chipping brush, if I can find it. Let's take a look here. Look at that. Of course, I wanted to tie it in there and totally missed it. I'm so used to running a normal sized rod that this thing almost puts down a little TIG weld. Wow. Let me turn it up. I don't know. We'll go to 41 amps. Why not? This time I'll try to actually run it on the weld. There we go. Well, it's a little harder to start it. To be honest, I never really cared much for 6013. It's kind of like hard to see the puddle. I mean, they weld okay. This stuff is like 1/8 inch. It's almost a little too thick for it, but you can tell a little bit cold. Doesn't want to wet out into that weld that well, but we're just getting this sucker dialed in now. I'm going to go up to the 45 amps, which they claim is the max for these. I think they'll handle a little bit more than that, but who knows. Let me run another pass on there. It's kind of weird. It seems like there's almost like twice as much flux as there is rod on these. That's looking a little better. A little bit better. Now that that plate's a little hotter and I bumped the amperage up. Not bad. I'll run one more whole rod. Don't mind my crappy welds there. It actually, it definitely welds. Now that this plate's preheated, it's welding a lot better. When this thing was ice cold, I don't think 45 amps is enough on that. So it makes welds. We'll actually do some test welds. This is more of like an experiment just to kind of get a feel for it. Let me switch over to them 6011s and see how those run. Now these don't appear to have any amperage rating on them. It says run on AC or DC EP, so we're on EP. These little guys are cute. Look how small these are. I'm going to drop the amperage Yeah, 40 amps is a little hot for that. Oh, it actually, I don't recall using many of these if I've ever. I think somebody gave them to me, but it runs pretty much like a 6010 does. I didn't adjust the dig settings or anything, so it's set pretty soft like what you would want on a 7018. Look at that little baby 6011. That's this guy right here. Yeah, you run it slow enough, it pretty much runs like a 332, just slower. Huh. Interesting. Well, I think I kind of have a feeling for what we got going here. All right, so got a couple plates here. We're gonna run the 6013. So I got the machine set for 42 amps. We're gonna see how well that goes.
Whoa! Jesus.
Well, let's take a look at what we got. Got real squirrely on me. These things are kind of a pain to control the flux. Like I had, first part was good. When I restarted, the flux started bubbling in front of my arc and I just couldn't get it to lay down and push back. So you can see all of that slag kind of just boiled up. So the first part pretty good, second part not so good, and then you can see where I welded here, same thing. Like it almost seems like there's twice as much flux as there should be with this rod. Like there's just so much. So what I'll do, I'm gonna buff this a little bit, let this cool. I'll run a second pass on this back side. I'm gonna increase the amperage a little bit. Try and get a little bit of arc force to push that. Restart on that went way better. It still kind of had some issues. Let me buff that off, let's take a look. Probably be some porosity in there. Yeah, a little bit of slag entrapment where I restarted, where I stopped. I should have cleaned that off. But the restart, I'm starting to get a hang for this stuff. Starting to get a hang of it. Looking a lot better. These things burn off so fast. It's like twice as fast as a normal 3/32 rod. Yeah, other than, I mean, that slag entrapment, had I hammered and cleaned that off and then restarted on it, I wouldn't have that. Yeah, I mean, these things don't weld that bad for 1/8 inch material. Honestly, on 1/8, I almost rather use a 3/32. Something you can't really see is these things shake. Like any movement you have in a stinger becomes like you can't even control it. It's pretty bad. All right, let's do another test plate. All right, I ran a 6011 pass here. You can see not the best, not the worst. This is a lot harder of a rod to run, to be honest, than the 6013. I think it would work a lot better on thinner material, but on this 1/8 inch material, you just have to push so much in, or you get undercut and underfill. That's a bastard to run this. Definitely would take some practice on this thick of material. Rather use 332 rod. Well, that was fun. I'll tell you what, that 6011 rod is a bastard. Just look at this one. So I got it chucked up here, and I'm going to hold it here. And look how much that tip, and I'm holding it against the table, and just look at that. I mean, you can imagine when you're trying to weld, I'm not even moving the stinger, and look how much it moves just from me talking. Isn't that crazy? Like, I'll tell you what, that kind of sucked to try and hold a bead with. It's just bouncing all over. The 6013 was a lot better, actually. So yeah, I went and did this test plate too. I didn't film it, just on thicker junk I had laying around, and this rod is really too small for this. I only made it like an inch and a quarter on a whole rod, and just wasn't going well. This lower weld here I did with 6011. It isn't that bad. I would say if you're gonna weld 1/16 inch thick steel or a little bit under, this 6011 might be all right. I don't see a huge practical application for it, to be honest. I think the 6013 for sheet metal in the same 1/16 diameter is by far better. I mean, it can weld this 1/8 inch. As you can see, it did pretty good for having ran this in a very long time. Not bad. I think it would work a lot better on thinner stuff too. So overall, I guess I'd recommend, if you want to do a little experiment, a little challenge, a little fun, pick up yourself a box of these. I can't imagine they're much more than, I don't know, $8-10 or something. And try it on some sheet metal. I'll have to try and find some sheet metal around my place and give it a shot, but hopefully you learned something and enjoyed the video. Thanks for sticking around.